Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Adebola Adedugba. The headlines. Nigerian government identifies schools in 14 states, FCT vulnerable to attacks. South Africa's opposition Democratic Alliance criticized for inviting United States to monitor 2024 elections. Libyan leaders agree to form new unified government. And details shortly. Let's begin in the west of the continent, where Nigeria's presidency has vehemently refuted allegations of budget padding for the 2024 fiscal year, dismissing claims made by Senator Abdul Ningi as unfounded. Ningi, representing the Northern Senators Forum, accused the executive led by President Bola Tinubu of implementing a budget that exceeded the approved amount by an additional 3 trillion naira. However, the presidency, through a statement issued by the President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, countered Ningi's claims. The statement clarified that the Nigerian leader initially presented a budget of 27.5 trillion naira to the National Assembly on November 29, 2023. The presidency added that the budget signed into law by the president on January 1, 2024 amounted to 28.7 trillion naira. Earlier, we were joined by a public affairs analyst, Dotun Ojon, and he shared his thoughts on these developments.
I call budget of any nation as the destiny direction of that nation. And you cannot continue to toil with budget and expect a glorious future for your citizens. And like I said, our destiny is not in a destination, it's in our daily decision. So if we want to take our future very seriously, anything that has to do with budget must actually be tackled with utmost sincerity and seriousness. Having said that, this is not the first time that we'll be having issues of budget padding here and there, but I think this is the first time that we'll be having the allegation going towards the side of the presidency. What we've always had is a member, maybe of House of Reps or a senator, accusing the leadership of the Senate to be padding budget for their own benefit. But for the first time, we are having a senator coming out to say, oh, this particular padding will not only benefit the legislature, that is to the benefit of the presidency. And this is extremely very strange. That is why beyond issuing a statement as to what will be done, I think the federal government must come and the executive must come out with utmost sincerity to explain what has happened. 3 trillion naira as we speak now, considering the current economic reality in Nigeria, is not something that we should toy with.
In the meantime, Director General of the National Pension Commission, Aisha Dahir-Umar, has denied claims that the Commission lent 10 trillion naira to the federal government. This comes after the House of Representatives passed a motion in October tasking its Committee on Pensions to recover alleged borrowed pension funds totaling 10 trillion naira. Dahir-Umar dismissed these allegations, emphasizing that the PenCom is not a financial institution and does not manage or lend pension funds. She clarified that the federal government did not receive a loan of 10 trillion naira from the Commission. She emphasized that the investments made by pension fund administrators in government securities are not loans, but rather investments in approved financial instruments such as bonds and treasury bills, as regulated by relevant government agencies like the Debt Management Office and Securities and Exchange Commission. President Bola Tinubu is set to launch the student loan scheme on March 14th. Special advisor to the president on media, Ajuri Ngolale, who made this known, emphasized the significance of the National Student Loan Program, described it as a crucial step towards alleviating financial burdens for Nigerian families and young people during challenging times. The student loan scheme stems from the Access to Higher Education Act 2023, signed by the President on June 12, 2023, with the aim of providing interest-free loans to indigent students pursuing higher education in Nigerian tertiary institutions. The act also established the Nigerian Education Loan Fund to manage loan requests, grants, disbursement, and recovery. Away from that, the Nigerian government has issued a stark warning revealing that schools in 14 states and the Federal Capital Territory are under imminent threat of attacks by bandits and insurgents. National Coordinator of Financing Safe Schools in Nigeria, Halima Iliya, who made this known, said data on at-risk schools had been compiled for intervention. Although Iliya did not disclose the state, Commander Ahmed Abodunrin of the National Safe Schools Response Coordination Center said they include Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Benue, Yobe, and Katsina State. Amidst these warnings, the nation remains in shock as the scourge of mass abductions persists. Over 465 pupils, teachers, and women abducted in the past week remain in the custody of their captors. Nigeria faces a worsening blackout situation as hoodlums have once again vandalized critical infrastructure, exacerbating the country's power crisis. The Transmission Company of Nigeria reported on Sunday that the Shiroro-Katampe 330 kV transmission line had been vandalized, marking the fifth such incident between February and March of this year. According to TCN spokesperson Adedugba, the vandalism occurred at approximately 9 a.m., leading to a strip in the transmission line. He noted that efforts are on the way to mobilize for conductor replacements pending completion of security operations at the site. But however, assured that despite this setback, the second line remains operational, transmitting at full capacity to Abuja. You're watching News Central now. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned. Muslims in Nigeria are observing Monday, March 11th, 2024, as the first day of the month of Ramadan. Sultan of Sokoto, Sahad Abubakar, a spiritual leader of Muslims in Nigeria, announced the commencement of Ramadan following the sighting of the moon across the country on Sunday, the 29th day of the month of Shaban. Encouraging Muslims nationwide to observe the fast in accordance with the Islamic teachings, the Sultan urged them to use this sacred month to pray fervently against the ongoing insecurity plaguing the nation. He also called on all Muslims to pray for the country's leaders, imploring them to discharge their duties with the fear of God. The Sultan emphasized the importance of assisting the underprivileged during this period. And to discuss the significance of the Islamic Holy Month is Chief Missioner Association of Muslim Professionals, Sheikh Daud Adetokunbo Adelakun. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me.
Happy having you too. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much.
All right. Speak to me about the essence of moon sighting to Ramadan.
Well, we thank Allah, the Lord of the worlds. We appreciate Him for His favor upon us, for keeping us alive till this beautiful day, the best of the days of the year, the first day of the month of Ramadan. But Ramadan is one of the sacred months in the whole lunar month, which is the Muslim count. In Islam, religious activities are determined by nature. Our daily prayers are determined by the movement of the sun. When we do our Fajr prayer, when the sun just rising, when we do our Zuhr prayer, when the sun has just shifted from the rising, when we do our Asr prayer, when the sun is actually perfect, and then Maghrib, when it is sunset. So this is daily activities. Our yearly activities, one of them is fasting. You do it only once in a year, which is mandatory, for a whole month. Other one is Hajj. You go to holy pilgrimage, also once in a year or once in a lifetime, but has to be only once in a year. Cannot do it 2-3 times in a year. All these are determined by the position of the moon, the crescent. And that is why before fasting is started, you have to search for the moon, that the moon has actually started, that is, you have entered into the month. You can't make it mandatory to be fasted outside that month has been mandatory. You can have voluntary fasting anytime, but the one that God has made to be mandatory, compulsory, obligatory upon every sane Muslim, upon every matured Muslim, upon every healthy Muslim, upon every Muslim that is present, is not on journey, that's resident, and is sane, and has good health, and is of age, that's at an age of puberty. Fasting becomes mandatory of them on the sighting of the moon of the first day of Ramadan. From that day till the end of that month of Ramadan, it is forbidden. It's a sin upon any Muslim to eat and drink in the afternoon of those days. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in his holy book, in the Quran, in Quran 2, ayah 183, that Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba alal ladhina min qablikum. That all you who profess the faith, who believe in the oneness of Allah, who believe in the day of judgment, who believe in the messengership, who believe in the scriptures that have been revealed, who believe in destiny, all of you, and believe in the books. When the month of Ramadan is cited, it is mandatory upon you to fast. This fasting is not only on you, it has been made upon those before you. Kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba alal ladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun.
Sheikh
Adedugba, fasting mandatory upon you.
Yes, Sheikh.
Yes, please.
Yes, you've spoken copiously about the need to fast, the need for Muslims to fast during this period of Ramadan. But I'm wondering as to how fasting makes a Muslim God conscious. If you could just elaborate.
Okay, thank you very much. That is the essence of fasting. For every act of worship as a Muslim, you have 5 pillars of Islam. One is fast is daily prayers. That one should take you away from, promiscuity and iniquities. Your fasting is to make you closer to God, to make you understand the essence of creation, to make you feel the position of the less privileged. There you have food to eat, but you cannot eat. But you have it. Some don't even have the food to eat. How do you, feel their feelings? People need to be cared of, to be cared for in this period. So your consciousness of God increases when you're fasting. Generally, look at this human being. When a human being is very, very happy, he's very happy, he commits more sin when he's happy. He has so much money in him, he has so much time in him, he has so much free time, everything. He clubs, he does everything, he wastes so much money, and he commits a lot of sin. But when he's a little bit incapacitated, when he's a little bit in need, when you are fasting, you are hungry. And that's because you are hungry, your ability to do many commitment sins become reduced because of the state in which you are. So fasting increases one's piety. It makes you think more about God who has actually made you to fast. And that is why the conditions and the activities that's carried out in the month of Ramadan, you can see that those one increases one's consciousness. Piety means consciousness of that everything I do, God is watching over me. And I'm going to be rewarded by it. And
all right.
Why
Sheikh
the Messenger of Allah said,
just a button there. Let's talk about mental health, particularly in this present economic reality of Nigeria. I mean, how can Ramadan practices like increased prayer and also reflection contribute to better mental health for people?
Yes, purpose of fasting, like you've said too, is to increase piety and consciousness of God. And because of this, your mental health is bound to improve. You are going to be thinking of the less privileged. Look at this economic situation of Nigeria now. People, sins, corruption all over. People care less about God. People care less about death. People care less about the feelings for other people. Fasting, the essence of fasting is for you to think about the conditions of the less privileged. And you'll be able to help them. In fasting period, you do more of charity, more of support of the less privileged. So when you do this, it affects the mental status of the less privileged. They feel happy too. They have the sense of belonging. So some people care for us. That we are not just abandoned. God has not abandoned us. He has made some people, the rich people, to reach out to the less privileged for the fasting. And that is why they said, whoever feeds a fasting person in the month of Ramadan will have the reward of a person who has fasted and his own will not be reduced. And it will be as if he has actually fed people for 70 days. if you have done only one. So, and that is the essence of, fact. So it increases the mental well-being of the citizens, and it makes us feel, and in of Ramadan, there will be a lot of lectures, admonitions, reminders here and there that will make people to feel their responsibility to their God and the responsibility to humanity, because religion is serving God and humanity. If you say you are worshiping God and you are not concerned about the feelings of the fellow creatures of God, then you are not a conscious Muslim.
Okay, just one final question for you, Sheikh Adelakun. How can Muslims, even beyond Ramadan, maintain a healthy eating habit?
Yes. Usually, as a human being, one of the benefits of fasting is, physical benefits, health benefits. You improve your health status because you don't eat much all the time. So these habits should be continued. That is why in Islam, we fast Monday and Thursdays. We fast 13, 14, 15 of the lunar month. So this is a practice that should be continuous after the month of Ramadan. This should be continued. You're used to it and you repeat every week, you read every month. So, and that increases you physically, you are better off. Health-wise, you are better off. And you will be able to reason faster. And you'll be able to perform better as a Muslim and as a human being.
And that's a fine place to wrap up. Thank you so much for your insight on the news, Sheikh Daud Adetokunbo Adelakun. Thank you so much for your insight.
You are welcome. Thank you so much too.
In the meantime, women in Nigeria's federal capital have taken to the streets of the capital to protest against the increase in cases of child molestation. They are calling on parents and government to do more in protecting their children from pedophiles as cases of child molestation continue to be recorded in the country. Amadine Uyi reports.
Happiness Annie is the founder of a group of women and children advocacy group, also known as Abuja Moms. For Happiness, her past experience has led her to champion a cause against child molestation. Once she recounts saw the details from her past.
I was molested myself at age 10 by my auntie's husband, and I'd never started healing until 2019 when I spoke about it for the first time. My auntie didn't do anything, and then when I went home and told my mom, they asked my mom not to seek justice for me so that people do not call me someone who is not a virgin at age 10.
For Happiness and many other women in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, their annual walk against child molestation is personal, as this year's walk marks the 6th in their bid to raise awareness against the crime.
Today's walk is against child molestation. On the platform Abuja Moms, we do this annually to create awareness and to make parents know that it's okay to seek justice for their children who've been molested.
Many of the women say child molestation, which has become more rampant in Nigeria, is now becoming a source of worry in the country.
It's a very, very big problem that we have in Nigeria, where children are molested, both the male and the female child.
It's a very deep menace that has eaten up our society, families, communities. It's very deep. And the worst part is that no matter how much we try to talk about it, this thing still happens in a lot of homes, especially by guardians.
They are calling on parents and governments to do more in protecting children from the hands of pedophiles.
Every child deserves protection, and if any victim who comes to any platform, whether government or to an individual, you should be able to listen to that child.
My message to all Nigerians today, women, men, children out there, see something, say no to child molestation, say no to abuse, shatter the silence, speak out if you have to.
We are asking that when people see such things or hear such things, they should report.
These women are hoping that those in authority will step up and bring justice to the victims of child molestation. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
And now to health matters. Nigeria in the last 5 years has lost about 16,000 doctors to Japa syndrome, while about 17,000 had been transferred. The Nigerian government also said there are 55,000 licensed doctors in the country to attend the growing population of patients following the exodus of health professionals to hospitals and health facilities abroad. Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, said the brain drain syndrome has robbed the health sector of its best hands. He also affirmed that the government is doing its best to expand the training scheme and motivate others who choose to stay back and serve their fatherland. And I'm moving on to another news item. A senior registrar in the Family Medicine Department at Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Idiaraba, Dr. Temitope Okwonla, has raised alarm over the rising number of patients seeking medical attention following significant organ damage, including kidney or liver failure. The doctor bemoaned the fact that these patients frequently showed up at the hospital symptom-free, only to find out later that they have serious organ damage that could have been avoided if they had come sooner. He added that the majority of issues in the teaching hospitals arise from patients showing up when little or nothing can be done. The doctor identified a number of causes for the rise in liver and kidney damage cases, including use of herbal remedies and self-medication. And to talk about this in detail, I'm joined live on the news by Dr. Matthew Oko, a public health researcher, to speak on this. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
All right. Talk to me about the factors you believe contribute to the increasing number of patients, presenting themselves with organ damage, particularly for kidney and liver failure.
So I think first thing that we'll talk about here is the fact that the way our way of life really is is not something I want to write home about in terms of how we neglect preventive healthcare as a people. You see a lot of people who have chronic conditions and they are not even aware. I think a couple of years back, Isaac Adebola, Professor Isaac Adebola, the Minister of Health, did mention that half the people who have diabetes in Nigeria are not even aware. So, and this most of these chronic conditions, tend to take their toll on our organs without us knowing. So, unless we adopt this habit of going to the hospital as routine to have ourselves checked, we may continue to have these challenges, because the organ failure, is an insidious thing that begins over time, and then before you know it, you find yourself in trouble. So we need to improve our way of life in terms of seeking preventive healthcare instead of waiting until we are ill before going to the hospital.
Now, beyond lifestyle habits, like you mentioned, Dr. Okwonla mentioned patients often, showing up symptom-free, but later discovering serious organ damage. How can individuals be more aware? What are the signs, the telltale signs to help you know that, hey, there is a problem looming behind?
Right. Again, you see, in the early stages, the symptoms, are oftentimes we refer to them as non-specific, meaning the symptoms that you get are not. For example, you see symptoms like somebody being weakness, confusion, fever, loss of appetite, and all that. But most people just go and treat themselves for malaria without going for proper checkup. It is when you go to the facility that the healthcare provider who has been trained to look out for this is able to look beyond what you think is the issue, and they may be able to find out what exactly is going on with you, because the symptoms that you get are oftentimes not non-specific, like I said, until it becomes it gets to the point of no return. When you now begin, for example, you mentioned kidney failure, when the person is no longer able to form urine, or the person wakes up and have swelling all by the body, and you begin to run helter-skelter. But in the early stages, what are more likely going to be seen is vomiting and nausea, which are not specific, like I had mentioned earlier. So again, we might not be able to run away from the fact that we need to be more conscious about going to the health facility to have ourselves checked out, because that is the one sure way that you can avoid avoid all this, because if you go to the facility, the person who is trained to look out for these things is able to examine you and then decide what next that you need to do, instead of resorting to self-help like we commonly do. And then we only go to the hospital when it gets out of hand.
The doctor also highlighted the impact of herbal remedies and also self-medication on liver and kidney damage. I know you touched on it a bit, but can you elaborate on the risks associated with these practices?
Yeah, so now without, I'll put it this way. Up to half the medication that we use in the health facilities are plant-based, right? We source them from plant, and then, but the process of getting these drugs out of the plant undergoes a process of purification, during which the products are detoxified. What I'm saying here is the fact that most of these plant elements also, in addition to the active ingredient that they contain, also have toxins that people who sell herbal products may not be aware of. So they contain toxins. They may contain heavy metals. So these which are injurious to the body. Now the kidney and the liver are primarily their function primarily is to detoxify the body. So what now happens is as you continue to subject them to these insults of heavy metals and the toxins that you have in this plant, then over time they begin to get into trouble, and then they are not able to do the work that they ought to do. Like last Monday, I also put out health content on. Last Monday, I did a talk on salt. Salt is supposed to be part of your food, right? Without salt, your food will not be tasty. But when you have too much salt, over time, it tends to injure the blood vessels that you have in your kidney and can cause kidney problems for you. So the point here is we need to be careful of the herbal products that we take, because even sometimes some people who sell herbal products that they say for pain, we found out from over time that what they do is that they ground large amounts of painkillers. The people can buy from the pharmacy and put inside this thing just to convince their customers that the products actually do work. I'm not saying that they do not, they may not work, but again, we have a lot of unscrupulous people who do things just because they want to make money. And going back to the fact that these plants, in addition to having items that may be useful to you in terms of your health, also contain chemicals that are not good for the body, which tend to cause injury to these organs that tend to detoxify our body, talking about the liver and the kidney. So we need to be careful with how we use these products.
When it comes to sensitizing people or raising awareness, what measures would you recommend to inform the public about the importance of early presentation for medical issues?
Now, with respect to early presentation, this is a multi-sectoral thing. Number one, we as a people, over time, people have this apathy of reporting to the hospital first when they fall ill. They want to try all manner of things before going to the hospital. And we've seen people complain about, the wait time in the hospitals, the costs of going to the hospital, and then sometimes the attitude of the healthcare providers. But be that as it may, I think people need to understand that your best bet is to go to the hospital instead of waiting until it becomes late for you to do so. So I think I've lost my train of the second part of that question. If you can repeat it for me, please.
I was asking you, how can people be encouraged to, go to the hospitals more often for checkups?
Okay, thank you. So this segment should be, or this portion should be a multi-sectoral thing. For example, awareness is one big thing that we need to create, particularly from the side of government. We have the National Orientation Agency, we have the Ministry of Information, we have the Ministry of Health. We can come together and, put out information out there for people to encourage people, help people to understand the dangers of patronizing people who are unlicensed, the dangers of self-help, and then the need for them to visit the health facility as a first point of call. Statistics has it that 60% of our healthcare is provided in the private sector, right? But this private sector also includes people who are not in the organized health sector. You will just walk into any pharmacy shop, you meet a pharmacy attendant, and then the person gives you a prescription. So we need to begin to see this as a practice that is not good for our health, and we need to be able to get that information out there. We need the National Orientation Agency, I believe they have an office in almost all the states of the Federation. So if we begin to put out information through this medium, we definitely will. It might not be something that we'll achieve today, but with time, we'll begin to change the attitude of people. And again, I mean, if people get to the hospital and their hospital experiences are something that they are happy about, they will definitely want to go to the hospital as a first place of call whenever they have issues, instead of trying to resort to self-help.
Hopefully, this would likely change the attitude of people towards presenting themselves early enough at the hospitals. Thank you so much for your time on the news, Matthew Oko.
Thank you very much.
And coming up, South Africa's main opposition under fire for inviting U.S. to monitor polls. We have details after the break. Join us again. Still in the West, the candidate for Senegal's ruling Benno Bokk Yakaar coalition, Amadou Ba's campaign rally has been held in Goudiouaye, a suburb of Dakar, ahead of a March 24th presidential election. Ba promised to create 1 million jobs over the next 5 years if elected as president. The vote had originally been due to take place on February 25th, but the president, Macky Sall, plunged the West African country into its worst crisis in years on February 3rd by postponing the election just before campaigning was due to begin.
Je m'engage à poursuivre les acquis, à mettre en œuvre des programmes innovants. Et je me suis engagé à créer 1 million d'emplois sur les 5 années à venir.
am nañ ci yaakaar bu baax a baax ndax Benno Bokk Yaakaar nekk na coalition boo xamante ne depuis 2012 moo ngi existé depuis 2012 bi mooy suñu 14e élection te yàlla dogal na yëpp ñu ngi koy gagné kon am nañ ci yaakaar bu baax a baax ne fañ daan jaar dinañ fa jaaraat ànd ak suñu ay responsable politique ànd ak le candidat Amadou Ba ba ndam li inshallah.
Amadou Ba nekk nit ku dëgg nit ku maanu nit ku yaru nit ku xam boppam kenn xamalu ko dara boolewul dara ki wax moom la ñuy xëy suba ba ngoon jot di wër 5e président mbaa la dee ak rasulullah lii la ñu wax Amadou Ba Amadou 5e président Amadou Ba 5e président.
Amadou Ba c'est le meilleur. Amadou Ba c'est le candidat idéal. Amadou Ba c'est l'esprit du Sénégal. Amadou Ba c'est un homme d'État. Amadou Ba c'est l'homme qui a des valeurs. Amadou Ba c'est le meilleur des meilleurs.
In the south of the continent, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has criticized opposition Democratic Alliance Party for requesting the U.S. and European countries to observe the upcoming elections. The DEA had in a letter sent to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and European Foreign Affairs ministers sought monitoring for the elections. Ramaphosa condemned the move, calling it disingenuous, adding that it undermines regional and international monitoring bodies such as the Southern African Development Community, African Union, and the United Nations. The ruling African National Congress also criticized the DEA, accusing it of compromising South Africa's sovereignty. South Africa's elections are scheduled for May 29, with polls indicating a potential decline in the ANC's share of the vote due to widespread dissatisfactions with the economy, public services, and corruption. In the east of the continent, tensions rose within Burundi's main opposition party on Sunday as a faction announced the expulsion of its leader, Agathon Rwasa, citing his failure to unite the party's two factions. At a General Assembly held in the northern part of the country, party sources and witnesses confirmed Rwasa's removal as the head of the suspended National Freedom Council. The 60-year-old former militia leader was replaced by Nestor, a senior executive at a state-owned company. Meanwhile, the party Secretary General Simon Bizimungu has condemned Rwasa's ousting, asserting that it violated the party's constitution. Bizimungu accused Interior Minister Martin Terese of obstructing Rwasa's attempts to hold his own General Assembly on March 2nd, alleging that Terese authorized a small group of 10 dissents to seize control of the party. Authorities in Uganda have halted the recent ban on meat sales in the capital, Kampala, following an outbreak of foot and mouth disease. Minister for Kampala City and Metropolitan Affairs, Mensa Kabanda, said the ban had been halted while the government assesses the impact of the disease in the capital. The minister also urged the public to ensure animals undergo testing before slaughter to prevent further spread. Last week, health officials imposed the ban and ordered the closure of slaughter places to contain the spread. Foot and mouth disease have been reported in 40 districts across Uganda, according to local media reports. In the north of the continent, the leaders of Libya's rival governments have agreed to establish a unified government, marking a crucial step towards resolving the country's prolonged political deadlock. The agreement was announced in a joint statement on Sunday, following talks held in Cairo, Egypt, facilitated by Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abdoulagate. Leaders at the meeting affirmed the urgent need for a unified government to oversee long-awaited elections and consolidate sovereign positions. The formation of a unified government represents a significant step forward in Libya's quest for stability and national reconciliation. Libya has been in turmoil since the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. And still ahead, Israelis' protests against Prime Minister in Tel Aviv. We have details shortly. Join us again. At least 16 people were arrested in Tel Aviv over the weekend as police clashed with demonstrators who were demanding the departure of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after 5 months of war in Gaza. The protesters called for the return of hostages and the progress in talks on a hostage deal with Hamas. About 100 hostages remain in Gaza, with 31 presumed dead. The protesters also called for an immediate ceasefire, a position that Netanyahu's government has so far rejected, arguing it would amount to a victory for Hamas. Meanwhile, mediators have been pushing for a new ceasefire deal. However, U.S. President Joe Biden confirmed a breakthrough was looking tough.
There's a lot of anti-Netanyahu sentiment right now. Benjamin Netanyahu, who according to every opinion poll taken for a very long time actually, has been trailing very significantly against his main political opponent, Benny Gantz. If an election was held today, there's absolutely no doubt that the opposition, what we call the kind of center-left bloc, would form government. Netanyahu, I think that on one hand, Israeli society has kind of moved rightward after October 7th. They feel that there's a need for a strong military, but on the other hand, they don't want the country right now to be led by Netanyahu. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it is the sentiment that opinion polls suggest is very, very dominant in Israel at this time.
So hopefully they will exchange the prisoners and have peace. But it's really about time, after more than 30,000 people got killed and almost 80,000 got wounded. So hopefully the war will stop, because the whole world it's silent. I don't know why, because I mean, everywhere else it's usually they do something about it, but about us or Palestinian or Gaza Strip especially, nobody cares except you guys. South Africa, all respect for.
Leader of the center-right Democratic Alliance Party in Portugal, Luís Montenegro, declared early on Monday that his party had defeated the ruling socialists in the early general election held on Sunday. Portugal's main center-right party narrowly defeated the incumbent socialists in an early general election, but fell well short of a majority in a near-complete official result showed early on Monday. In the Sunday poll, the Democratic Alliance received 29.49% of the vote, while the socialists, who have ruled Portugal since 2015, received 28.66%. There are now just 4 seats remaining to be assigned in the 230 seats in Parliament.
Sempre disse, com implicações em termos de compromisso com as portuguesas e os portugueses que vencer as eleições era ter mais um voto que qualquer outra candidatura e que só nessa circunstância assumiria as funções de primeiro-ministro. Pois bem, sabemos que vai exigir grande sentido de responsabilidade a todos.
African clubs are competing for spots in FIFA's new 32-team club World Cup tournament set to debut in the United States in 2025. Al Ahly and Wydad Casablanca have already secured spot as recent CAF Champions League winners. The tournament will feature 20 teams, including these two African clubs, with 12 spots left to fill. Winners of the 2023-24 Champions League and the highest-ranked club will claim the remaining berth. South Africa's Mamelodi Sundowns and Esperance of Tunisia are the only two clubs still in contention to claim that ranking spot should Al Ahly win this season's CAF Champions League. Real Madrid star Brahim Diaz, born in Spain but with Moroccan heritage, faced a dilemma over his international future. Despite his impressive form, contributing 12 goals this season, he wasn't a regular starter. Named in both Morocco and Spain's pre-list for the upcoming international break, Diaz reportedly decided to join the Moroccan national team. Fabrizio Romano revealed Diaz's decision, prompting the Moroccan Federation to prepare a celebration. Over the next 2 weeks, the Federation will implement the official decision reached on Sunday. Igor Swiatek, the current world #1, rallied from a slow start to defeat Czech teenager Linda Noskova in a straight set and advanced to the 4th round at Indian Wells. Despite initially trailing 4-2 in the first set and facing 3 bleak points in the crucial 7th game, the 22-year-old Polish player staged an impressive comeback. She went on to secure a commanding victory, winning 10 consecutive games from that pivotal moment. Swiatek, a 4-time major champion, is set to face Kazakhstan's Yulia Putintseva in the last 16. Her victory marks her 22nd occasion of winning a set 6-0 in WTA 1000 tournaments, accounting for 11% of all such sets in WTA history. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Nigerian government has identified schools in 14 states, FCT, vulnerable to attacks. South Africa's opposition Democratic Alliance have been criticized for inviting United States to monitor 2024 elections. We also told you that Libyan leaders have agreed to form a new unified government. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.